WTIM.
Good morning. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. Joining us now in this segment, we've got Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frericks. Treasurer Frericks, good morning to you, sir. How are you today?
Grayson, good morning.
Well,
It's a happy Monday morning. The weather is nice, and you're ready to get back to a job I love.
Well, I'm glad to hear that for you on your end of things. And not only that, it has been a beautiful weekend, and then kind of joining that now with another nice week, at least in terms of the outlook. It's hard to have a bad Monday morning. We're just dragging a little bit here on this end. So I'm glad to hear you're doing a little better on yours. Well, for you, Treasurer Frericks, since the last time we spoke, you've returned another Purple Heart. And this is just one of those feel-good things, not only for you, but for those listening as well. And Treasurer Frericks, what can you tell us about that returned Purple Heart?
Yeah, this is one of the best parts of my job, Grayson. We return a lot of money, but normally we'll just mail a check to someone. These Purple Hearts I get to return to the recipient or to their loved one, and they're really special ceremonies. And last month, I got to return a Purple Heart to a family in Southern Illinois. This Purple Heart was earned in World War II. It's one of those really sad ones where about 3 weeks left to go, so less than 3 weeks left to go in the war in Europe. A guy had been fighting there for a while. He was in a bunker. A German grenade hit it, collapsed to the ceiling, leaving him paralyzed. He came back and never started a family himself, but we got to return the Purple Heart to his great niece and to hear her remarks and to see the impact it made on her and her family's commitment to our U.S. government, to our military, was just really impressive and one of those special things I get to do in this job.
You know, I actually hadn't thought about the fact that how you got the Purple Heart. You know, we just know that the Purple Heart is such a mark. It's such a reward or award of service. But I never really thought about the fact that there's a lot of history and a lot of things that go into that Purple Heart, as you mentioned right there.
It is. There's only 2 ways to earn a Purple Heart. One is to be injured in battle, and the other is to die in battle. And so that's why these things are so sacred. You can't buy one of these. You can't purchase the valor. It's something that is earned. And, I asked one of the recipients of a Purple Heart. He came to my office to collect it. And I asked him after we talked for a while how he had earned it. And you could just hear the emotion in his voice. He got quiet. You could see his eyes start to water up. His throat was twitching, and I said, "That's okay. You don't have to talk about it." And his son was there and said, "Dad doesn't talk about that time. He came back from Vietnam, and his family knew he'd earned a Purple Heart, but Dad just didn't talk about it." And so it was something very traumatic. And in the case of the people who live, frequently their buddies, their band of brothers around them, some of them passed away, and I think some have survivor's guilt. Some of them, the things they have seen will be in their memory forever and sometimes live on as nightmares. And that's why it's so important to return this to them. Not so they can relive those nightmares, but this is something that they went through an awful lot. It's a little something that the military can give to them, and it ought to be in their hands rather than a cold vault in Springfield.
Yes, sir. And you mentioned the money part of things, and there are some things that money cannot buy, and that puts that much more emphasis on the Purple Heart being returned. And also just, we've talked about the Purple Heart a time or two, you and I, and just to kind of dive into it a little deeper this time around, more so as the person, that was appreciated. So thank you for that on this end. We're speaking with Treasurer Frericks, Michael Frericks, Illinois State Treasurer here on the WTIM Morning Show. You mentioned to me that it is College Savings Month, and we'd like to get a little piece out there on that. What do you have for College Savings Month?
It is. September is College Savings Month. We encourage families, we encourage individuals out there, to someone in their life that's important to them, to consider starting or contributing to a 529 college savings account. Now, your listener may be thinking, hey, well, not everyone needs to go to college. And I agree with you. Not everyone does. But people need some sort of education post high school, whether it be a university or community college, or a technical program, a trade school, or an apprenticeship, some sort of skill, certificate, education post high school to get a good paying job. And these 529 accounts can be used for all of them. And the one thing they all have in common is they frequently cost money and sometimes they're very expensive. And we encourage families to start saving today for a loved one in their life. You can set up an account for a child, set up for a grandchild, a niece and or a nephew if you don't have your own child. But it's one of the best investments that someone can make, and it pays off dividends throughout their lives.
For you, State Treasurer Frericks, how was the best way to maybe start a 529 account, as you mentioned, or a 529C? What's the best way in getting started on that?
Well, I say the best time to start an account is yesterday. Second best time is today, because not only are your contributions deductible from your state taxes up to $10,000 per individual or $20,000 for married couple, but all that growth through investment income is tax-free on your federal taxes as long as it's used for a approved higher education expense. So that means that you can put money aside and you can save it and you can invest it. But if you don't do it in a 529 account, you're going to pay taxes on that, which reduces the amount that you will have for your children and their educational needs. And so you can go online. Our Bright to Start program is you can do it yourself online. If you like working with a financial advisor, you can go to them, tell them you'd like to open up a Bright Directions account. They can help you with that and provide you with financial advice. We like giving people options.
Sure. And plenty of options, as you mentioned. And we always think college, but thank you for mentioning some of those other things too, that you do need the skill if you'd like a high paying job, but those other options exist. And so I do appreciate that. Anything else when it comes to College Savings Month?
Yeah, I'll just remind people that there are plenty of jobs out there that don't need a college education, but they do need some sort of training, some sort of skill or trade. You know, our building trades, people earn good wages, but they have to be trained in order to get those wages. And these can also be used for apprenticeship. And maybe you apply through a union and they're not charging you, but you'll have need for safety equipment, for tools, for other things like that. You can use these college savings account for. And if you start saving for a young person and it turns out they get a full ride scholarship, they decide not to go to school, get into training, after a certain amount of time, up to $35,000 in that account can be transferred into their IRA. You can help them with their retirement. If you want to give a kid a better future, I think investing in education is a great start. Another great way to do it is to help them get started on the road to retirement so that someday they will be able to enjoy their golden years, that they can have a retirement with dignity.
And for a lot of folks, that's just doesn't seem like a reality, and starting your grandchild out on a better foot is certainly not a bad deal. And the fact that it can roll over into an IRA also should definitely be mentioned. So thank you for doing so there.
Yeah, that's a change we made here in this office. We think that it's important that everybody wants to give their kids a brighter future, and education can be part of that, but also getting them into good habits of lifetime saving, so they don't have to be working into their 70s or 80s because they can't afford to retire. That's, I think, something that what government does well, when we help people help themselves.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. And the fact that that change has been made and it does roll over, it feels like you're not being punished for getting that full ride. So if you do succeed educationally and you do get yourself a full ride scholarship, then there's still use for all that money that's been put back for years. And so I really can appreciate that note as well. You mentioned to me a live auction at the Illinois State Fair, and we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And so from you and from your end of things, how did that live auction go?
It went wonderfully. We set records, both for total amount that we auctioned off and then the highest amount for a single item in our auction. We auctioned off a 10-ounce gold bar for $32,500, if my memory serves, but over $325,000 total in this auction. It's a lot of fun. It drives a lot of people out to the state fair. They can have a good day. But I'll just remind people, when we collect physical items that come in through bank safe deposit boxes, we have space concerns. We start to run out of space. Our vault tends to fill up over time. And so after about 10 years of no one touching their property, we will attempt to auction these things off. And we do that to turn it into cash. This is not a moneymaker for the state of Illinois. This is not a bake sale. So this is us just turning a physical property into cash, which we can keep much more easily. And we will hold on to that forever. And so if you don't claim that Mickey Mantle baseball card that you left behind in a safe deposit box, your children don't claim it, your grandchildren can claim it at some point in the future for the full amount it's sold for at auction. But Grayson, the one thing we do not sell at auctions are military medals, because as I said earlier, you can't buy that valor, you can't purchase that honor.
No, and nobody should be able to act as if they have deserved or earned that in any way, shape, or form. But interesting note there. I would have figured when you mentioned we're selling things that it would go to the state's side of things as well. But you're saying to me that instead, this is just the cash value is going to be kept back, and for somebody to come ahead or go ahead and claim it at some point. And that sounds a little different than what I certainly would have thought from the live auction and what you earn from it.
Yep, a lot of people think it's a money maker for the state. It just makes it easier for us to handle because those physical items take up space. They keep coming in every year. We need to clear room for new ones out there, but we can hold on to money in record amounts. The state has more than $5 billion that we'd like to return to people in this state. And so I encourage any of your listeners, if they haven't checked in more than 6 months, to go to illinoistreasurer.gov and click on unclaimed property or iCash, or you can go directly there at icash.illinoistreasurer.gov. Use our database, check for yourself, check for your family members, especially deceased family members. You can check for any business or nonprofit or religious institution you're part of, because we have money for them as well.
So who knows? Maybe it was your family member that maybe helped break a record or two over the course of that live auction at the Illinois State Fair. Where we're speaking right now with Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frericks. We talked a little bit about the live auction at the Illinois State Fair, College Savings Month. It's time to start saving today in the Purple Heart that was returned in August. We're going to come right back and talk more records that were broken with State Treasurer Michael Frericks here on the WTIM Morning Show here on your information station.
WTIM. Here's Cousin Bill from Illinois Paving.
Attention farmers, harvest season will be soon approaching. You don't want to continue to rattle your guts out in that driveway, do you? Are you tired of all the dust? Illinois Pavings offers dust control solutions. This is a multiple layered solution that can hold up to your heavy equipment. Let's stop the potholes, let's stop the dust, and get you in a nice, clean, smooth farm road before harvest. While there's still time, call Cousin Bill, ilpaving.com.
AgriTalk is the radio talk show for American agriculture. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Chip Flory. We join you weekday mornings from 10 to 11 on WTIM on AM and FM and on the WTIM streams. We provide farmers and ranchers with timely insights and information aimed at improving their operations. Join me, Chip Flory, weekdays at 10:06 on your ag information station, WTIM.
Your locally owned Scooters Coffee at routes 29 and 104 in Taylorville are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WTIM Tornado Give Back promotion. Scooters Coffee will donate the following to the Taylorville Sports Boosters. For each Tornado varsity football touchdown, they're donating $10. For each three-point shot in varsity Tornado boys and girls basketball games, they're donating $3. And $5 for each home run scored by varsity baseball and softball team. The 22 local Scooters Coffee Taylorville, thank you for your business. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast.
Promoting student success is our priority at Taylorville Schools. This is Superintendent Brandy Bruley with an invitation to discover the exceptional achievements of our students and staff during our monthly Taylorville Schools Good News segment. Join us the first Thursday of every month at 8:40 on the WTIM Morning Show on air, on the WTIM audio stream, and the WTIM video stream on Facebook and YouTube TV. Students, teachers, and administrators will share how we're fostering student excellence each day. Tune into the WTIM Morning Show for our Good News segment, and go Tornadoes.
This is Dwayne Wheeler, the police chief of the city of Taylorville. As a law enforcement officer, I've seen the impact that depression and suicide have on many people. Many times, those contemplating suicide endure considerable suffering and distress, but there is help. If you feel depressed or lonely, there are many resources to help you. You can call a trusted relative, friend, or minister, or call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That is 1-800-273-TALK. All of us are here to help you. Thank you.
At People's Bank and Trust, they help their consumer and business customers spend their time living their life, not explaining it. At People's Bank and Trust, they put people first. Find out how they can help you by clicking their banner ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Robinson from Advanced Title. Whether selling your home on your own or through your local realtor, please give us a call at 824-8007 for all your title work needs.
Your information station, WTIM.
Back around with the WTIM Morning Show here on your information station and brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first and landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining us in this segment, we've got Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frericks. We'd like to turn our attention now to another record that has been broken by State Treasurer Frericks and his office. It's record interest income. A return on investment over the last year has never been better for the state of Illinois. And this is where State Treasurer Frericks takes us away. How did we do in the last year?
We just finished up our last fiscal year, $1.57 billion. So that's $5.7 billion, $1.5 billion that doesn't have to be raised in income taxes. It's $1.5 billion in cuts that the General Assembly doesn't have to make to our schools, our universities, or roads and bridges. To put that into perspective, we broke the previous record about just under $1.5 billion. That was set by me the year before, $1 billion the year before that. The previous record before me, let's say my two predecessors combined brought in about $1 billion in 8 years. So we brought in 1.5 in 1 year. They brought in about $1 billion. We're sitting on about $5.5 billion to date since taking office. So really happy with those returns. They make the job of the General Assembly easier and hopefully lessen that pinch on a lot of people in the taxes they have to pay.
Well, I can imagine a lot of people really like you when you're bringing in that many dollars. You mentioned $8 billion total, or $1 billion total in 8 years, excuse me, and then you do one and a half and a little extra in just 1 year.
This was a record year, but we've been increasing most every year we've been in office. As I said, this is an important job because every dollar we bring in interest is a dollar that doesn't have to be raised in other taxes. And that's the main part of my job. We love returning money to people. We've set records there as well. We love helping people save and make more money, but this is really fundamental to my job.
Well, I've got a quick question for you as we continue on this conversation here. So what do you think that you're doing differently that should have been done in the 8 previous years? What do you think you've got going on right now that is making such a big difference, whether that's on the personal side or on the business side of things as well?
Well, some of those things are outside of our control. When the Federal Reserve increased interest rates, it makes it easier for me to do my job. When we have more money sitting in accounts, that's easier to do my job. But we've also taken a different approach. We've gone to the General Assembly numerous times and asked them to give us increased authority to do different investments. You know, the General Assembly doesn't have a high tolerance for risk, and neither do I. But I felt that we could take a little more risk to earn a little more income, but also have a greater impact on our state. An example is we started up our Illinois Growth and Innovation Fund. So before, we'd invest in treasury notes or we invest in banks. I asked them, allow me to invest up to 5% of our portfolio in Illinois companies, in Illinois founders, in tech startups, because we make money on that. We make a much higher return than we do from treasury notes. But also, when you help those companies to grow here in Illinois and they hire people here in Illinois, those employees are paying income taxes. That's helpful for our state. And so then I went and asked to allow us to invest in infrastructure for the same purpose. When we invest in infrastructure, we make money, we make our businesses more competitive, and we employ people here in this state. And it's a win-win-win, truly win-win-win situation. And so doing things differently, we've brought in more money, but we've also helped create jobs. And that's when government is working well, I think, what it should do.
I would be right there with you, and I'm glad we got a little bit of time to break that down too, just because, I want to give you an additional moment to kind of brag on that. That's a huge deal, but also to to know that, all right, maybe we just throw in a touch more risk, 5% of it. My main takeaway from you here today, if you don't ask, you might not receive. And so that will be my message from State Treasurer Michael Frericks. And I'd just like to say thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. I think we as Midwesterners aren't very good at bragging, but we've got a lot of good things going on. It was not that long ago. Illinois had some real financial problems. We're not out of the woods, but we're at least going in the right direction.
That's all we can ask of your office and of our government. So I think people should be happy to hear those things. Again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frericks here on the WTIM Morning Show.
Your information station, WTIM.
The word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is